your life. As you go about trying to succeed in different areas, you gotta listen to the feedback. I want to do this. What's the response around me? Should I go slow? Should I go fast? I'll give you the example here. For my family, initially I wanted to go fast because I'm retiring next year and I wanted to really get a lot of things sorted out before I retire. And I pumped a lot of money into my farming business. But every so often, I get roadblocks, right? Like last year, I put in so much money and 5 out of 6 greenhouses fall down. And had to redo that, right? So I learned from that experience. Uh, December last year, I had no worker. All the workers had gone, because as you negotiate with life itself, you don't have everything under your control there. And this is in every stage of life, in everything in life, there are things you can control. There are things you cannot control. So if you just keep on running along and not listening to the things around you, you're gonna crash because there are things outside your control. There are things within your control. As you do the things within your control, you have to scale it, mindful of the things you can control. Right. You need to learn along the way and find our best to fit in the things that are outside your control, to work with the things that are within your control. And that involves listening, reading the handwriting on the wall, right? Listening, reading the handwriting on the wall. You know yourself. You need to know the things you're having to deal with, the people you're having to deal with also. you know and these days for me, God just I'm learning to keep quiet. I'm learning to read more rather than and being hastily to react. I'm learning to give people time, to show themselves, and me read them and work according to what I see, I hear, rather than being in a hurry to intervene. Sometimes you're in a hurry to intervene and you mess it all up because what it seemed that you saw, is not what is. You need to give time to be sure of what is really playing. See the picture fully before you rush into saving the day, because sometimes your seeming saving a day destroys the things on ground. Right. There's a place to trust people. There's a place to give people the opportunity to show themselves. Obviously, you're not doing this in a place where you're poised to lose more than you can handle. You're doing that with sense, right? But just mere fact that with life you have to work with people, you have to learn to understand them, learn to know what is going on in their head, learn to know what is their own goal. You have your own goal, but then you're working with people. You need to know what their goal is and try to find a common ground, where you can have a mutually beneficial outcome. I have workers for me, I have farmers, farm manager, they have their own goals, right? They're human. The mere fact that they're human means they have their own personal goal. As much as I pay them salary and they should be working towards my goal for the salary that I paid them. But I don't own them. I don't own them. Therefore, they have their own personal goal. Part of their goal is why they're working for me to achieve their goal. But their goal is not limited to working for me. They have a life that is bigger than me, bigger than my own project. So I have to listen to them and make sure that my own goal does not run counter to their own goal. Otherwise, there'll be conflict. we will not have the best outcome from our engagement or our time together. I have to learn to accommodate their total goal within the goal that I am trying to achieve, right? Without losing the true value or the true end goal that I have for my project. I'm paying them, so there's a limit to the accommodation, but at the end of the day, you, you still have to be human. It's a human interaction, right? At the end of the day, negotiation involves human. So you have to see the human in it all, without it taking you off what you're trying to achieve, right? But that essential part of being human needs to be respected. Otherwise, you won't go far, you won't succeed, right? So, uh, so we need to listen. We need to listen to understand, listen to know the parties, listen to know what is at play in the negotiations you're doing, so that what you hear becomes input into your negotiation strategy, right? Again, it's that place of Sun Tzu telling us that you need to know yourself and the enemy. And this time it's not the enemy, it's the other party. The other party does not have to be an enemy. It's just the other party or parties in the negotiation. For you to be able to have a mutually beneficial outcome, you need to know them just as much as you know yourself, right? And I'll bring this back to the con game. In the con game, when you go there and being someone that has sat, in those timeshares, them trying to sell timeshares, listening to the con man is different from listening to me, right? I should listen to them and understand what's in their head. What are they trying to achieve? They're trying to make me buy a timeshare that is of no benefit to me, but all benefit to them. In their own head, they're trying to listen to me so that they can sell me the timeshare, right? So if I truly listen, that should help me to make sure that no matter where this discussion goes, I don't sign. I don't sign. And I've done that once. We're out in Florida, and because I had the experience, they got to the point where they wanted me to sign that I will never come to any of their units, because I was adamant not to. I'd got I've had my feel of mistakes around timeshare, you know. So, but you need to listen. You need to listen and know what is the other person trying to achieve. What is their goal? What is your goal? And determine what you want to get out of it, the goal. Focus everything you want on your goal, right? Yeah, so that's important. We'll listen and we'll learn. So negotiators are detectives. They're asking probing questions and then shut up and listen. They're trying to understand what is at play so that they can use what is at play, in getting the result that they want to get, right?